Good morning, students. Yesterday we started the lesson Mughal Empire. So Mughals were ruled between 1550 to 1700 CE. So in this Mughal emperors, Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb and Jahangir were the most popular rulers. Okay, so let us discuss about the Japt and Jamindars. Japt means here the revenue system at the time of Mughals is called Japt. Okay, so the main source of income of Mughals was taxes. Okay, so at the time of Akbar, so Todaramal was the revenue minister. So before imposing the taxes, the Todaramal conducted a survey of crop yields, prices and areas cultivated for a period of 10 years. So before imposing the taxes, Todaramal conducted a survey of crops and prices and where different crops are cultivating. So in between 10 years. Okay. So on the basis of this idea, it was imposed taxes on different crops. Means here there is no same tax procedure, okay, based on the crop. So imposed the tax. Means taxes are varied. Each province was divided into revenue circle with its own schedule of revenue rates for individual crops. So this revenue system was known as Japt. So as per Japt, there is no fixed tax rate on all crops. So taxes were varied based on the crops. Okay. So Mughal administrators conducted survey on their ruling areas. So this was not possible in provinces such as Gujarat and Bengal. Next, in most places, peasants paid taxes through the rural elite, either through headman or the local chieftain. Nowadays, we are paying tax directly to the government through e-Sevas or online or through banks. But at the time, they paid taxes through only middleman, means headman or local chieftain. So to collect these taxes, Mughals used Jamindars. Mughals are used the Jamindars. So those were not appointed by the Mughals actually. Okay, so the headman or the chieftain of that villages considered as Jamindars. Okay, so the power they get hereditary. They get hereditary basis. So that is sons succeeded when the fathers died. Okay, so they received a share of the revenue collected by the Jagirdars from the area and also some dues from the farmers and others. So after collecting the taxes, Jamindars repay some amount to the Mughals and they retain some amount with them. So even the Jamindars are acted as the representatives of the local people in dealing with the Mughal officials. Those are acted as a middleman between Mughals and local people. So in some areas, Jamindars exercised a great deal of power. So sometimes they try to exploit the Mughal administrators to get power. Okay, and they revolted against the Mughals also. Sometimes Zamindars and peasants together fought against the Mughal authority. Okay, so these Jamindar peasant revolts challenged the stability of the Mughal Empire from the end of the 17th century. At the time, Aurangzeb was the ruler, so they challenged the Mughal emperors at the time. Next, a closer look at Akbar's policies. So Akbar was the most popular ruler in the Mughal Empire. So he implemented different policies in his time. So Abul Fazl explained about Akbar's reforms in his book, the Akbar Nama. So while Akbar was at Fatehpur Sikri near Agra during the 1570s, so he initiated important discussions on religion with the Muslim scholars, Brahmins, Jews, priests who were Roman Catholics, and Zoroastrians. So Akbar taken initiation to discuss about religion with different elite people, with the Muslim scholars, Brahmins, Jew priests, so and Zoroastrians also. So he was interested in the religion and social customs of different people. So Akbar wanted to bring together people of diverse faiths. So he want to introduce a different idea of religion, that is Sul-I-Kul, or universal peace. Universal peace. So Akbar tried to introduce this new idea to unite the different religion people in his kingdom. Okay, so Abdul Fazl helped Akbar in forming a vision of governance around this idea of Sul-I-Kul. What is the meaning of Sul-I-Kul or universal peace? The idea of tolerance did not discriminate among people of different religions in his kingdom. Okay, the idea of tolerance. And next one is, so did not discriminate among people of different religions in his kingdom. That is the idea of Sul-I-Kul. Okay, so this principle of governance was followed by Jahangir and Shah Jahan as well. So but Aurangzeb deviated from this policy. So he was not accepted that idea and tried to project himself as favoring only Sunni Muslims. So Aurangzeb supported the Muslim people only. So people of other religions felt anguished by this policy of Aurangzeb. Okay. Next, the Mughals empire in the 17th century and thereafter. So at the time of 17th century, so Mughals became weakened. Okay, so because of their administrative and military power, the Mughals got lead to economic and commercial prosperity. So international travelers also described about them. So at the time it was the fabled land of wealth. But the Jamindars and the Mughals became more rich, but the people of the kingdom faced poverty. Okay, next, there was so many inequalities were there. So according to the documents of Shah Jahan's region, so 445 Mansabdars were having a highest rank out of 8,000 Mansabdars. So these 445 Mansabdars, so those were very small percentage of total Mansabdars. So they received 61% of the total estimated revenue of the empires as salaries for themselves and their troops. So they misused the revenue. So they used 61 point of total revenue, percentage of revenue out of total revenue they used for salaries for them and for their troops. Okay, so at the time of Mughal, so Mughal emperors and their Manusabdars spent more income on salaries and goods. So very less percentage of income left to spend on the development. Okay, so the enormous wealth and resources commanded by the Mughal nobility, means elite persons. Okay, so they made them an extremely powerful group of people in the late 17th century. So middleman got more power, means Manusabdars or Jamindars or elite persons or chieftains got the more power at the time of 17th century. So because of that, Mughal emperors slowly declined. So their subordinates emerged power and sometimes they revolted against the Mughal emperors. So they started establishing new dynasties and hold command on different provinces like Hyderabad and Awadh. So even though they continued to recognize the Mughal emperor in Delhi as their master. By the 18th century, the provinces of the empire had consolidated their independent political identities. So means the Jamindars became powerful and they declared independence, but they accepted the authority of Mughals. Okay, so later Asaf Jahis of Hyderabad. So at the time of Mughal Empire, so these Asaf Jahis emperors were the governors of Mughals. So they ruled Hyderabad at the time of Mughal time. Okay, so they ruled 1724 to 1948. So out of Asaf Jahi's empire, Nizam ul Mulk, first Nizam, already you know, our Hyderabad was ruled by Nizams after entering the Britishers also. Okay, Nazir Jung, Muzaffar Jung, Salabad Jung, Nizam Ali Khan, 2, Sikandar Jah, Nasir ud Dawla, Afzal ud Dawla, Mir Mahbub Ali Khan, Mir Usman Ali Khan. These were 10 were the rulers of Nizam. Okay, so after the weakening of the Mughal Empire in 1720s, so the Mughal governors asserted their independence. One of them was the Subedar of the Deccan. So Deccan means South India. So Chin Kulch Khan, also known as the Nizam ul Mulk, he was the founder of the Asaf Jahi dynasty of Hyderabad state in 1724. So means, so the governor of Hyderabad under Mughal Empire, so declared as independent ruler in Hyderabad. Nizam ul Mulk ruled for 24 years, 1724 to 1748. The Asaf Jahi rulers were 10 kings who ruled from 1724 to 1948 up to independence. So after the independence also they continued 1 year they ruled in Hyderabad. Okay. Among them, 7 kings got the title Nizam from the Mughals: Nazir Jung, Muzaffar Jung, Salabat Jung were not received the title Nizam. So the Nizams constantly fought the Marathas, means Maharashtra's, and the rulers of Mysore to get the independent state of Hyderabad. So due to these reasons, so they became dependent on the British and lost their independent status. So after enter the Britishers, they maintained relations with the Britishers to fought against the Marathas and Mysore's. Later they lost their independent status, but they ruled Hyderabad under the British rule. Okay, they understood the colonial modernization. So even the British loved the Hyderabad culture. So during the 19th century, so Hyderabad developed more. So Salar Jung was the prime minister of the Nizams between 1853 and 1883. So who absorbed the colonial development schemes. The sixth Nizam, Mir Mahbub Ali Khan periods. So he implemented more reforms in Hyderabad state. The Asifa Library, Victoria Memorial Orphanage, Mehbooba's Girls' School were established. During the Musi floods in 1908, the Nizam, Mir Mahbub Ali, personally supervised the relief operations, offered prayers to the God, and provided shelter to the victims. Okay, so later these Nizams declared independence and they continued their rule in our Hyderabad. Okay, so at the time of Mughals, so one of the ruler in Telangana revolt against the Mughals. So we will discuss about him. The person is Sardar Sarvai Papanna. So Sarvai Papanna, who belongs to the Warangal districts, fought against the Mughal rule in Telangana. So at the time of Aurangzeb period, so he supported the lives of many poor people who were backward and downtrodden. So on behalf of the poor people and downtrodden people, so Sardar Sarvai Papanna fought against the Mughal rulers. So Papanna occupied the Telangana area from Mughal rule between 1687 to 1724 CE and built a port in Kailashpur, which was also considered the capital city of Warangal district. So against the oppressions and atrocities committed by the Mughals, so Sarvai Papanna raised a small army and trained them in guerrilla attacks. So here guerrilla attacks means this army won't fight with Mughal soldiers directly. So they hide and suddenly attack on the soldiers. That is the meaning of guerrilla attacks. So Papanna, during his region of 30 years, Papanna was ruled 30 years this area, ruled Bhuvanagiri, Koranapaka of Nalgonda. So Bhuvanagiri very near to our Hyderabad city, Koranapaka also very near to us. So Tatikonda, Chiriyala of Warangal, Huzarabad, Usnabad of Karimnagar. So Papana was ruled these areas. He constructed his first fort in Sarvaipeta with the aim of expanding his rule. So later he constructed forts in Tatikonda, Vemulakonda and Shapuram. So he was constructed check dams in Tatikonda. Okay. Next, Papana mostly raised funds for war and army by guerrilla attacks on Subedar, Jamindars and landlords. So he was not dependent on the revenue from people. So he raised funds from Subedars, Jamindars and landlords by attacking on them. So after listening the popularity of Papanas, Aurangzeb advised Rustum Dil Khan to suppress Papana. So Aurangzeb sent the Rustum Dil Khan to suppress the Papana, but Rustum Dil Khan sent Qasim Khan first to suppress the Papana. Firstly, the Qasim Khan conquered the Shapura fort from Papana. So later, Qasim Khan was defeated by Papana and killed. Next, Rustum Dil Khan himself entered the war and it went on for almost 3 months. That war between Rustum Dil Khan and Papana continued 3 months. Finally, Rustum Dil Khan ran away from the war, but unfortunately Papana lost his friend and close associate Sarvanna in this war. Okay. After the death of Aurangzeb in 1707 CE, the Deccan Subedar Kambash Khan started losing losing the control on Deccan. So having seen the weak administration of Kambash Khan, Papana attacked and conquered Warangal fort on April 1 in 1708 CE, and Papana also conquered the Golconda fort during the same period. So one of the person, Sardar Sarvai Papana, belonged to Telangana, fought against the Mughals at that time. Clear? So we will discuss more about Nizams in the next class. So with this lesson is completed. So write your own notes and send to me. Thank you.